She was beautiful, alien, and broken. Left behind on a burning desert world, her soft skin blistered under twin suns, her voice cracking as she begged the empty dunes for mercy. No food. No water. Just silence, and sand. Until he appeared. A lone human lost himself, but when he found her, everything changed. What happens when a single act of compassion defies the cruelty of the stars? This is the story of survival, trust, and something deeper. The desert stretched for endless kilometers in every direction. A vast ocean of blistering sand, broken only by the occasional jagged rock or decaying wreckage from the downed alien vessel. Twin suns hovered overhead, casting punishing heat onto the parched surface. Life wasn't just rare here, it was on the brink of extinction. And she was dying. The alien girl stumbled forward on bare, trembling feet, her skin shimmering a pale lavender hue, now scorched raw across her shoulders and thighs. What little clothing she wore, a frayed two-piece survival bikini made of thermofabric, was failing to protect her from the brutal sun. Her round, curvy form, once vibrant and full of energy, now sagged with exhaustion. Her name was Kalia, and she had once been a civilian botanist aboard the Yalshiri research ship. They had come to this planet to study the ancient seed vaults buried beneath the dunes. But the harrowers came, pirates, slavers, worse. In the chaos, Kalia was left behind during evacuation. Forgotten. For 2 days she had wandered alone, her water pack long since emptied, her voice reduced to a croaking whisper. She had screamed until her throat tore. No one had come. She collapsed beside the rusting hull of an escape pod half buried in sand. Her violet eyes blinked slowly, the world spinning. Please, she whispered, unsure if she even had the strength to beg anymore. The wind replied with silence. Far off, a different figure trudged across the dunes, covered head to toe in a sand cloak, helmet filter hissing quietly against the heat. The human scavenger, known only as Reed, moved with practiced efficiency. He had come to this forsaken planet not to save anyone, but to salvage power cores and memory banks left in the wrecks of warships and shuttles. But his HUD lit up unexpectedly. A faint heat signature. Faint, but alive. Reed's heart skipped. This world hadn't registered any active life signs in weeks. He adjusted course. Kalia barely noticed the shadow approaching. Her thoughts had turned to her family back on Urani's prime, her sister's laugh, the taste of candied miru fruit, the way her people danced in the lunar gardens. When the shape knelt beside her, she flinched weakly, too drained to move. A voice, deep human, broke through the haze. Hey! You alive? She blinked. The visor reflected her cracked lips, salt crusting her cheeks, her curls matted to her forehead. Water, she rasped. Reed didn't hesitate. He gently lifted her into a sitting position, her warm, soft weight slumping into his arms. From his side pouch, he produced a filtered hydration capsule and held it to her lips. She drank like a starving creature, gasping between sips. Water dribbled down her chin and soaked the straps of her bikini top. Her breath steadied. Reed took off his helmet. Dark, weathered skin, unshaven jaw, and sharp green eyes met hers. You're not supposed to be here, he said softly. She gave a broken smile. I noticed. Reed carried her back to his makeshift shelter inside the hull of a fallen carrier ship. The interior was cool by comparison, lined with thermal blankets and a low-humming generator. He laid her gently onto a padded cot, placed a cooling gel pack on her sunburned shoulder, and offered her a ration bar. Kalia took it with shaking hands, then paused. You're human. Last I checked. Why did you help me? Her voice cracked again. Most don't even look at my kind. Especially like this. Reed tilted his head. Because you were dying. And I don't like watching people die. She tried to laugh but coughed instead. Her skin glowed faintly again under the soft light of the shelter, her color slowly returning. Reed found himself staring a moment too long. Her features were delicate, but not fragile, rounded cheeks, wide violet eyes, full lips. Her form, curvy and soft, had clearly not been built for war, yet somehow she had survived in this harsh wasteland longer than most trained soldiers could. I'm Kalia, she murmured, finally. Botanist, civilian. Reed. Scrapper. Definitely not a botanist. That night, under the wrecked ship's metal shell, she slept for the first time in days. Reed stayed close, scanning comms, but keeping an eye on her. When she stirred, shivering despite the heat, he adjusted a blanket over her bare legs and looked away, giving her back privacy without comment. Despite her revealing outfit, he treated her with quiet respect. She noticed. By morning, Kalia had regained enough strength to sit up on her own. Her belly growled as she finished another ration bar. So, Reed said, sitting across from her with a scanner in hand, Any reason you were out there alone in your swimsuit? Kalia flushed a faint shade of lavender blue. It's a heat-resistant suit. Woven from adaptive fibers. It didn't work as well as advertised. Reed chuckled. I've seen better marketing. I was left behind, she admitted, voice soft. The harrowers hit our camp. I hid in a supply crate during the attack. When I came out, everyone was gone. My evac signal failed. I've been walking for days. Reed frowned. Those bastards still patrol this area. If they find you. I know. She looked away. I'm a scientist. I know plants. I don't know how to fight. Reed leaned back. You made it through a hellish desert with nothing but that bikini and sheer willpower. Don't sell yourself short. Over the next few days, Kalia regained strength. She helped Reed identify native plant roots with minor hydration properties, adjusted his filtration system to extract more moisture from the air, and even patched up some old drone tech he had written off as junk. She wasn't just beautiful, she was brilliant. And funny. One evening, while adjusting his solar collector, she leaned too far and slipped. Reed caught her mid-fall, and for a heartbeat, their eyes met, hers wide with surprise, his steady and warm. Thanks, she mumbled, flustered, pulling herself upright. Anytime, Professor Bikini. She smacked his arm with a laugh. That is not going to stick. It might, he grinned. But the growing warmth between them was cut short by the sound of engines overhead. A harrower patrol ship. Kalia froze. Reed pushed her down behind a pile of crates. He peeked through a crack in the wrecked ceiling, one ship, armed, scanning. Damn it, he muttered. They must have tracked the heat signature spike when I brought you in. She looked up at him, eyes wide. They'll take me. Not if I stop them first. Reed armed an old plasma turret and activated his remaining defense drones. He handed Kalia a short-range comm. If I say run, you run. Got it. What about you? He met her gaze. I'll catch up. But she didn't move when the first shots rang out. The harsh crack of energy fire split the desert silence as the harrower patrol ship descended like a bird of prey. Reed's turret fired first, jolting against the rusted metal of the ruined carrier hull, bright blue plasma bolts tearing through the dry air. The enemy vessel responded immediately, strafing the site with blinding beams of heat. Kalia flinched behind the crates, hands pressed to her ears, heart hammering against her ribs. She could feel every thrum of the enemy ship's engine as it circled above. Her entire body screamed for her to flee, but Reed's words echoed louder. If I say run, you run. But he hadn't said it. Not yet. Instead, Reed stood like a steel statue in the opening of the wreck, shoulder braced against the blast wall, aiming, firing, recalculating. His movements were precise, focused, like a man who'd faced death before and no longer feared it. Come on, you bastards, he muttered, pressing the plasma rifle tighter against his chest. Just a little closer. The turret caught one of the harrower's external thrusters, sending a flare of fire spiraling into the sky. The ship staggered but steadied, still airborne. A hatch opened. A dropship detached. Reed's jaw tightened. Ground team inbound. We've got 5 minutes tops. He ducked back behind the crates where Kalia crouched. Her skin shimmered with fear, her hands shaking, her voice barely a whisper. They're coming. I know. I can't go back, Reed. I'd rather die than be theirs again. Reed stared at her, this soft-spoken botanist in a torn survival bikini, cheeks streaked with sand and ash, still trying to look brave when her whole world had collapsed. And somehow, in this moment, she looked like the strongest being he'd ever known. You're not going back, he said. I'm getting you out. But how? They'll land any second. I've got an escape rover in a cavern half a click north. It's got a jump drive. Short range only, but enough to get us beyond the patrol grid. Once we're out, I can call in favors, off-world extraction, asylum, a new life. She blinked. Why would you do that for me? Reed hesitated, then spoke softly. Because you looked at me like I was human. When most just see a scavenger. He glanced at his watch. We move now. Stay close. They ran. The sun-blasted desert stretched before them like an open wound, the air thick with dust and the fading echoes of gunfire. Kalia's legs burned with each step, her breath ragged, but she kept going, driven not by hope, but by Reed beside her. He ran with his weapon drawn, constantly scanning, shielding her body with his own when the terrain narrowed. Behind them, the harrower drop team hit the wreckage and fanned out. The desert offered no cover, but Reed knew the terrain better. He'd mapped these ruins over months. He led her through a shallow crevice, sliding down rock faces, jumping craters left by crashed drones. The cries of the harrowers grew fainter. They finally reached a metal slab half buried under stone. Reed yanked it open, revealing a tight tunnel into the cooled cavern system below. Kalia followed him in, gasping as they descended into blessed shade. Her legs gave out as they entered the open chamber, and she dropped to her knees beside the rover.
"Stars," she whispered. "We made it."
Reed opened the side hatch.
"Get in. Strap up. We've got one shot."
The rover was old but functional, its jump engine blinking steadily on the dash. Kalia fumbled with the harness as Reed powered up the system.
But then, a sharp alarm. Proximity alert.
Biosigns inbound. Reed's face went cold.
They tracked us.
The cavern entrance lit up with torchlight as armored figures appeared at the tunnel mouth, plasma rifles aimed forward.
Kalia screamed.
Reed shoved her down in the seat, then turned and fired. The tunnel flashed with violent light as the harrowers returned fire. Reed grunted as a bolt grazed his shoulder.
Blood soaked his sleeve, but he didn't stop.
"I'll hold them," he said over his shoulder. "You take the rover. Drive until the NAV locks in the jump point, then hit the core release. It'll send you out of range."
"No," Kalia shouted.
"Not without you.
There's no time.
They'll destroy the whole cavern if they think they'll lose you." "I won't go alone, Reed, please."
He turned.
The look in his eyes silenced her.
Then footsteps. Closer.
Reed cursed under his breath, then slapped a command pad on the rover's dashboard. "Override engaged," the system chirped. "Autopilot sequence initiated." "What did you do?"
Kalia cried.
"You're going," he said. "Even if I don't make it."
No, please." He grabbed her hand.
"Kalia, you made me feel like I mattered again. That was enough for me."
"Now live."
He slammed the hatch closed. She pounded against the glass as the rover's engine roared to life, her voice tearing from her throat.
"Reed."
But the tunnel flashed white as a final blast struck the wall, just as the rover surged forward and leapt into the launch tube, disappearing in a streak of light. Kalia woke hours later. The stars outside the viewport were unfamiliar, cold, distant, peaceful. The system had dropped her in a dead zone, far from known patrols. She tried to breathe, but the silence hollowed her out.
She was safe. But he wasn't. Weeks passed.
With help from a human outpost she contacted through emergency comms, Kalia secured asylum on a quiet moon colony. They offered her shelter, food, even a lab job. But her nights were filled with dreams of a desert sun, of calloused hands lifting her from the sand, of green eyes and a warm voice saying, "You're not going back." She watched every cargo ship that came in.
Every comm channel.
Every signal ping. But there was nothing.
Until, one day.
She walked into the port terminal, ready to give up her daily check, when a shadow caught her eye.
Dirty boots. A torn jacket.
And a familiar crooked smile under tired green eyes. "Sorry I'm late," Reed said, dropping his bag with a groan. "Got a bit singed." Kalia didn't speak. She just ran to him, tears streaking her face, arms flying around his neck. He caught her like he'd never let go. Epilogue. They never returned to the desert. Instead, they built a greenhouse on the moon colony, half lab, half haven. She grew plants from across the galaxy. He repaired things that should have stayed broken. Sometimes, they sat in silence, watching the artificial sunrise through the dome glass. And sometimes, Reed would glance at her, brushing a curl behind her ear, and say, "Still think that heat suit was a good idea?" She'd smile, lean into his shoulder and whisper, "It saved my life." And in the quiet spaces between stars, they lived. Together.